Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So, I've got you guys an update on some pretty big things that are going to be happening across the United States tonight into later this week. And then we do have a few things to talk about outside of the United States in the tropics. So, I've got a pretty big update tonight for you guys. And then I just want to take a look here at our current radar, where we do have a ongoing severe weather event. At least, some are calling it a severe weather outbreak, but we have a huge area of some severe storms here, and I do believe that this is a severe weather outbreak right here. We got a line of storms moving their way down south. We've got 2 days straight of an enhanced risk of severe weather, and this one is for the south central U.S. We're going to be watching that, as well as a storm system that's moving across the north central plains that's going to be bringing some very heavy rain to the eastern U.S. We got to watch out for a flood threat with that. So many things to cover here in tonight's update. But again, you can see we're looking at our current radar, and I'll zoom in here on the south central U.S. All right, we're looking at especially Texas. I think Texas has really been getting hit hard lately. But you can see that there is a very strong storm. This is severe warned. Moving right towards the Dallas Fort Worth area here. All right, in Denton, Texas, in McKinney, Texas, Louisville and Plano in Texas. So all of you guys near Dallas and Fort Worth got to make sure you're in your safe spot and you're at least under shelter. Some pretty big hail is developing off to your northwest, and this is going to continue to move right through your area. I would say up to tennis ball size hail with these storms. Very strong winds, maybe a tornado or two. Inside this huge storm system here, and then the heart of the storm system is moving out of Oklahoma City right now. Big cities to yet to get hit are in Shreveport, Louisiana, Longview, Texas, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Memphis, Tennessee, Jonesboro, Arkansas. So a lot of major cities are about to get hit here. And then on the backside of this, right here, we do have some supercells that were developing. They are decreasing in that tornado potential and component that they had. But you could see earlier, just about 7:30 today, we did have some pretty nasty looking, some pretty nasty looking supercells here, and this could definitely be hinting that we did have a ongoing severe weather threat, obviously, but that tornado threat too. All right, and so for the rest of the storm, we go a little bit farther up north. We'll zoom in here a little bit more. All right, it's just a lot of rainfall and a lot of storms moving through the Tulsa, Oklahoma area, so central Oklahoma into parts of Missouri. But yeah, just a really big storm in general. So just make sure that you're on the lookout for some big storms that are going to be firing across the region tonight. All right, so we move on to our alerts right here. So you can see that for the most part, what we've got going on is down here in the south. Obviously, we have that severe thunderstorm watch stretching all the way towards the southern panhandle of Texas up into parts of Oklahoma. You can see that this area is covering it goes kind of across Texas in a way. A few counties out here under a severe thunderstorm warning, along with a tornado warning. I believe we actually no, we do not have a tornado warning. Um, but yeah, I think we did get a few tornado warnings this evening. But for now, we have a few flash flood warnings around this severe thunderstorm warning. So it looks like that these storms are dropping a lot of rainfall. Look at Oklahoma covered in dozens of flash flood warnings here. I think that we may not only have a very intense severe weather event potentially outbreak here, but we also have what's looking like a pretty big flooding threat that's unfolding tonight. All right, and we have a lot of flood advisories, flood watches, flood warnings out here for this entire area. All right, another severe thunderstorm watch is up for parts of northeastern Oklahoma. This is including a few counties that are currently under severe weather statements or severe thunderstorm warnings. Flood watch is going out for parts of southeastern Oklahoma into southwestern Arkansas, and then that's pretty much it for the southern U.S. Other than that, so just a few flood watches and warnings, and then a few severe thunderstorm watches and warnings for the most part. And then we look at here, we do have a freeze warning for parts of central into northern New Mexico and also southern Colorado. We're getting a dip in the jet stream that's bringing really, really cold temperatures down into this region. You can see if you go farther north, we do have a freeze watch that is including a huge chunk of western and northern North Dakota. All right, so you really got to be on the lookout for some temperatures that could fall below freezing tonight, especially. All right, because it's going to be very cold tonight, very chilly. All right, and then you also do have uh, a lake wind advisory. Yeah, this is a lake wind advisory for parts of Montana, a few counties out here. All right, so this has been up for a few days straight. So it's looking like we're consistently we're seeing wind gusts at around 40, 50 miles an hour for this area here. So just make sure that you're aware that there could be some down trees, down power lines on some of those roadways out there. So the travel commute may be slow. All right, but that's pretty much it for the most part. So we go over now to the NAM 3KM model for the South Central U.S. So just gonna look at what we could expect with our storms into tonight and then eventually early tomorrow morning. So this is starting at around 3 p.m. today. We see that we didn't have much going on other than these developing storms out in Arkansas. This was the first initial uptick of severe thunderstorms, and then these really start to get going and they gather and organize. By 8 p.m., we're getting into 9 p.m., and we have a huge area of strong to severe storms, mainly severe storms, stretching all the way from parts of northeastern Oklahoma down to central Texas. And these groups of storms are marching their way down south, and eventually they form a squall line, a damaging wind gust line, is what we could call it here. And we get around 11 p.m., we have a monster damaging wind gust line that is just moving right through the DFW area into northeastern Texas. And then this is still not falling apart. Even into 2 a.m., we still got a strong line of storms moving down into now it is eastern parts of eastern Texas into western Louisiana. It might not make it to you guys. There may be a few strong storms that could detach from the system and then they could move through their area. But other than that, these storms will mainly fizzle out as we get into tomorrow. We're also watching that storm system that's moving right through the Midwest. All right, this is what you see right here uh, uh, on your top right side of your screen. All right, this we could even look at this. We'll switch things over to the northeastern U.S. here, and we'll look at what we could expect with this storm. All right, and so we're getting into about Thursday here, and we start seeing that storm system. It's still marching its way across the region, and you can see that there's going to be a lot of rainfall. It's going to be a very wet weekend, but it's not going to be intense rainfall. Mostly showers and thunderstorms for the most part. Maybe some developing thunderstorms could be relatively strong out in this region, but notice how there's a pretty big cold front right on the backside of it, and that's one of those shots of cold air. And believe it or not, Tropical Storm Felipe is actually right here. It's gaining on the eastern coast, so we're going to be talking about that sooner than later in this update. So we look at the current SPC outlook for today. This goes into tonight here. And you can see that we do have an enhanced risk. Let me move myself here so you can see this better. All right. Um, but we do have an enhanced risk. This goes out for parts of central and northern Texas. You can see just north of the Dallas area, this pretty much would be including Fort Worth. You have a enhanced risk for severe weather. Remember, this is a level 3 out of 5 risk for severe thunderstorms, and this is going all the way out towards central Texas, just relatively southeast of Lubbock, Texas, north of San Angelo. All right. But other than Dallas, no, you know, big cities out here. I mean, you definitely have Denton, Texas. You have Louisville, Texas. You have uh, you have a lot of you have a lot of cities around the Dallas Fort Worth area. But other than that, not much. All right, and we go to that slight risk. These are the surrounding areas. Now you have the heart of Dallas. You have San Angelo, and then areas just to the east of Lubbock, Texas. All right, this is a pretty big area in a 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather. Notice how this goes towards the southern panhandle of Texas into even parts of extreme southern Oklahoma. So a pretty big area, especially for that slight risk that we're covering here. But mainly across parts of central Texas. We go into that marginal risk where we pretty much get completely spread out now into parts of extreme southeastern Kansas. We have a marginal risk, and then you can see this goes all the way down towards the Mexico and Texas border right there. All right, that's including Tulsa, Oklahoma, Lubbock, Texas, Midland, Texas, and then areas just to the west of Shreveport in Louisiana. All right, and so that's pretty much it for your categorical outlook. We go to our tornado outlook. We used to have a 5 out of we used to have a 5% risk for tornadoes up, but they have actually updated this at the Storm Prediction Center. This was updated at 7:42 p.m., which looks like this wasn't too long ago. Actually, this might have just been updated, like literally just been updated. Yeah, I think it was. So now the tornado threat has obviously decreased, and we're pretty much done with it. There is a lingering chance for tornadoes, 2 to 4% for that same area of that slight risk and parts of the enhanced risk. But other than that, it really doesn't look like we're going to see much tornado possibility for the rest of today. All right. And so we go to our severe wind outlook. This is our damaging wind outlook. We still have a 30% risk with a hatched risk here. So we still have a considered very high chance for damaging wind gusts, and that's why I said that I think that storm is looking concerning. That damaging wind gust line. Well, here you go, right here on the SPC. The forecasters here are taking note of that. They have put out a hatched risk inside that 30% risk for damaging wind gusts just to the west of Dallas. All right, and we have a huge area here in that hatch risk. So be on the lookout for some very intense, potentially up to hurricane force wind gusts here. And I think that we could really see some major damage in this area. But that same area of that enhanced risk, and then for that slight risk, you're in the 15 to 29% risk, and for the surrounding areas, 5 to 14%. So for the last part of this update, for the last part of this section of the update, we look at our large hail outlook. We have a 15 to 29% risk. I believe earlier today we had a 30 to 44% risk, but for now this has been decreased to a 15 to 29% risk. Anywhere just to the west of Dallas, just to the north of Dallas, for that same general area of that enhanced risk, and then for the surrounding areas, a 5 to 14% risk. So that's going to take care of our severe weather portion of today's video. We're now going to be switching our thoughts back to what could be happening in our far future here. So we're done with our first round of these storm systems that are going to be moving across the United States today. But I think our next one is going to be pretty big here. So we see our trough swinging down here, which is also going to be our system, our um, rainfall system here. All right, and then on the backside, obviously up in here in Canada, you have some snow. All right, you got some snow up here. But notice how there is a cold shot. There's a cold front coming down from Canada, which is pushing this storm, and that could really cause a bring a severe weather component to the storm system because you've got warm air, which is, by the way, very moist in front of it. So that's going to support some cape. So high cape levels just means more thunderstorm juice. And then the fact that you also have cold air pushing up against that warm air causes tension in the atmosphere. And that's when the dynamics line up for a severe weather event to take place. And so that's why I am saying that we could actually get one up here in the Northeast. All right, and as things happen, you do have Tropical Storm Felipe that will be moving into the area. I'll talk about that one later. All right, but your cold front makes it all the way into the Northeast, and maybe some heavy snowfall just north of the Canada and New York state borderline. We could have some very heavy snow up here in the southern Canada, and we really got to see how far south this goes because it's looking like that this could be maybe you could even say an intense snowstorm for some of you up here in southern Canada. And I think that this could drop a few inches of snow on some areas. So just gotta watch that just in case the snow actually makes it to parts of the United States. All right. So after this week, we're pretty much taking a break here from these storm systems. But notice how we get a piece of energy that starts to rapidly get going here. And let me clear my screen so you can see this better. All right. But watch that system, and I think that this system is going to be the one we're going to have to watch. Notice how this quickly develops, and now we've got what looks like a traditional severe weather setup, although we don't have that cold air coming through the backside of it. All right, if we had a cold front right here, signalized in the blue lines here, then I would be more concerned about the severe weather component to this. This looks like just a pretty big rainstorm, but this quickly develops, and notice these red spots here. This is very very heavy rain, and this could most likely be either a rainstorm that could potentially drop uh, enough rainfall to cause major flooding, all right, or a severe weather event. We don't know. This is too far out, which to be specific is 240 hours out. Okay, and you could see that I mean, this is very far out, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen here. But I'm telling you guys, we have over and over seen on the GFS uh, a consistent signal that we could get a pretty big system from anywhere from the 13th to the 15th, maybe even the 16th of October. All right, I've said this in my previous video. I think we are going to get a blockbuster storm somewhere in that time frame. My gut feeling tells me that we're going to get something huge, especially for the Northeast here. And we see on the latest GFS run maybe what could be the worst case scenario. And I mean, this is way too far out, so there's almost no point in showing this. But the GFS is showing either a catastrophic flood event or a ridiculous severe weather event, potentially outbreak for the Ohio Valley and into the Mid Atlantic and Northeast. All right, so I mean, I don't know what is going on with the GFS tonight, but I mean, this is really crazy what it's showing here, and I mean, again, it's lining up the timing for these storms are really lining up here around uh the night of the 15th, which would be Monday. So this is about a weekend, 5 or 6 days or so out from now, and we are consistently seeing a big signal for a potential big blockbuster storm. So we just really got to watch this closely, and I think that this is going to stick around with us um, for a pretty long time. So we just got to make sure that we're paying attention to this and not ignoring it. Because if we don't ignore it, that means we're staying prepared, and that means we're staying ahead of the weather, which is the best thing that you can do in these types of scenarios here. So we look at our 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. I just want to show this because we are experiencing a pretty major pattern change here in our weather, which will lead to some of those big storms that I'm talking about. And so you can see that up here in the west and the central US, we have above average temperatures here. A pretty big ridge going on right here in the central US. All right, but notice the northeast is in a below average spot here. We're seeing some cooler temperatures that will be moving into this region around the 10th to the 14th. Okay, so because you don't have much cold temperatures as that storm would move through. Again, we're seeing that signal for that storm anywhere from the 14th to the 16th. All right, this outlook is out for the 10th to the 14th. So if you have below average temperatures from this time frame, then we switch to the 14th to the 16th, where when our storm will come through, we most likely will have above average temperatures in place here. Not very high above average temperatures, but some relatively high above average temperatures. All right, and so that could decrease that severe component to the storm. Because you don't have cold air on the backside of it. All that cold air will most likely be stuck behind this huge ridge of above average temperatures here, and it'll most likely be stuck somewhere, anywhere from parts of Wyoming, Colorado, all the way towards Iowa or Missouri. We really don't know the exact placement of this system. All right, and also the air temperature behind it, but that could definitely show us that we may not get a severe weather event from this, which would be good, but we may get a flood event from this, which would it would be very, very bad. All right, so I want you guys to keep that in mind. But again, this is for the 10th to the 14th. We're expecting above average temperatures in the western and central U.S. Then out here in the eastern and northeastern U.S., some relatively below average temperatures. So just want to keep that in mind. All right, so we look at what the latest GFS model is saying for temperature anomalies. All right, and this map basically just shows you where the GFS is predicting warmer than above historical average temperatures and below average historical average temperatures. All right. So if you see blue here, that basically means that you're most likely going to be experiencing below average temperatures based on your historical average. All right. And then these warmer colors here, these reds, these oranges, yellows, and sometimes these are the pinks. You see most likely above average temperatures. So you can see that starting out where we are right now, we have above average temperatures in the eastern U.S., mainly the northeast, and then some very low, below average temperatures out here in the western U.S. This is all going to change very, very quickly. All right, right now we are experiencing I guess you could say a very early fall mini heat wave, meaning that we're seeing consistent above average temperatures in this same region for days. All right, but this is going to quickly change, and we see that this warm air does not stick around for a very long time. And you notice how this all of a sudden this huge shot of cold air starts to move into the region, and you can see that all of a sudden in the Dakotas we're seeing temperatures getting down maybe as low as 14 degrees below historical average. I mean, that is definitely going to be showing that we could get a pretty good cold front out of this, and this thing really grows. And we're at the point here where we have the country's pretty much split in half here. We have the entire western side of the country is in a above average temperature spot here, and then the eastern U.S., you have a cold front that's barreling towards you guys. Look at this right here in Illinois. I mean, temperatures could get down to 20 degrees below historical average. So we could be normally experiencing temperatures from the 60s and the 70s, and then having your daytime high into the mid to lower 50s. It could be that. It could be that cool. All right. And this makes it all the way to the eastern U.S., where we still have temperatures getting as low as 14 degrees below um, our historical average here. And then we see we take a look at what our time frame is for this, and we see that we're still not past the 10th. We're still this is by Tuesday, so we're at Tuesday of next week. This is October 9th. All right, this is your warm air that's going to be in place as your big storm system moves through. So this cold air is going to it's going to do its own thing. It's going to move out. All right, because this warm air is too dominant for this cold air to stop it, because this cold air is already weakened dramatically. And so obviously that warm air takes advantage of that space and moves right into it. So now you got some high pressure, all right, and also uh, a lot of warm air in front of the system here. So basically what the GFS is showing is that we might not exactly get the strongest of cold fronts here. You can see that we do, it turns out we do have cold air, but we will potentially get an actual cold front. So I apologize for not noticing that, just because again, when we look at the precipitation map here, we don't see any blue lines here showing signifying cold air. All right, but when we look at the temperature anomalies, we see that there will be some sort of colder air in place. And I want you guys to notice that even though it's not going to be the strongest of cold fronts, notice how it's slowly wrapping into what could be our upcoming system. And look at the timing here. We're already at the 13th. This could be the beginning of our setup here of our severe weather event. All right, and this looking like it could be the traditional severe weather event setup right here. All right, you've got low pressure right here, that's staying with the storm, moving it to the east, and you've got a cold front that's pushing cold air into the backside of the system, which is eventually getting wrapped into the system. That is cold air and warm air colliding with each other, causing tension in the atmosphere. And then again, this area and yeah, just this area in general is loaded with moisture here because you also do have a tropical storm right off the coast, and we've been experiencing inches of rainfall in the past days. So, I mean, this is going to be the prime setup here and the prime conditions for something big to happen in this area. And so, this is just one of many reasons why I'm expecting a big storm around the 13th to the 15th. And this cold front does actually grow here, and it gets stronger. And eventually, you have cold air and warm air right up against each other, and boom, we're at the 15th right here. All right, this is where this is where the heart of your storm is going to be, right in here. All right, where you see the cold front and the warm front, they meet up right here. This is where that storm front is going to be. All right, and this is what's controlling it right here. It's going to be a little less organized at this point than it is back here because you can see that you don't see much of that cold air wrapping into the storm, but that's still going on here. It's just because that cold front has gotten stronger and that warm front, that warm air has gotten a little bit weaker, so they're not equal in strength anymore. So that's not gonna cause the dynamics to certainly line up as well as they did earlier. All right, in the week. So I think that still I mean, we still have a chance. I just want to say again that this is way too far out to really say much, but I think that once we get to this point here, it's not I'm not saying that we're not going to have a system anymore. We're not going to have a strong system anymore. I just don't think it's going to be as strong as it will be back here in the Midwest. So that's just something to keep in mind here. But we get all the way through the system, and eventually a cold front grows even bigger, and more of that cold air is still coming down from Canada. So that's going to put the eastern U.S. and the central U.S. in a cold, uh, just a cold set pretty much. You're just gonna have a few days straight of cold and below average temperatures here, and that's gonna stick around for a few days. So we get all the way to the 20th, and we're still experiencing slightly below average temperatures in the Northeast. And when I say below average temperatures in the Northeast, I'm meaning your daytime highs will most likely be in the lower 60s, and for some of you, a lot of you guys will be getting down to the upper 50s. All right, so it's going to be a lot cooler in just a few days. All right, so we're going to be switching to the tropics side of things. We are now looking at Tropical Storm Felipe. Felipe has just crossed through the northern Caribbean islands, or I should say the eastern Caribbean islands. All right, Felipe made landfall on the northern Lesser Antilles area, I guess you could say, as a strong tropical storm. It is now it's now kind of trying to re-strengthen, trying to gather itself again after being bothered by that landmass. All right, but you could see that uh, he's definitely still got some moisture to deal with. All right, but you could see that right into here we do still have some relatively strong convection going on right here, which is, if you didn't know already, it's basically a thunderstorm buildup in the atmosphere. But I think Felipe is going to strengthen as it moves into the North Atlantic. But once it gets to that midway point, um, pretty much from Bermuda up to Nova Scotia, I think that's when Felipe is going to start. Really, it's just going to start weakening because you will have some wind shear because you have a pretty dominant and strong northwesterly flow that's going to be bothering the system, and you also have some very cold ocean surface temperatures here, so that's really going to bother Felipe and not going to allow it to really strengthen that much. So we look at the current projected cone from the National Hurricane Center. As of right now, we are expecting the storm to continue as a tropical storm as it moves through Bermuda. You guys are pretty much right now in the dead center of that path. All right, we're expecting by 2 p.m. Friday almost a direct hit on Bermuda. Already tropical storm warnings up. All right, so you guys looking like you guys will get hit. We're running out of time for this to change, so it's looking like you guys will at least feel some pretty good impacts from the system, but potentially a direct hit. All right, so we're gonna have to watch out for some pretty big impacts towards you guys. All right, and now we get to the really concerning part where we are expecting the tropical storms to move into northern and eastern Maine and parts of western Nova Scotia. This is going to be pretty similar to Hurricane Lee. Okay, and this is just going to be a little bit farther off the coast, and because this is curving up a little bit earlier. All right, so this is not going to really bother. Um, this isn't going to bother you guys out on Cape Cod and the Massachusetts coastline as much as Lee did, but this could certainly change a little bit. This could shift west because remember, this is the cone of uncertainty, so we still don't know exactly what's going to happen as we get into this point here. So let's say this shifts farther west, then all of you guys from the southern Maine coastline towards Martha's Vineyard and the pretty much the Cape Cod coast, you will all have some pretty a good chance of some pretty big impacts, putting you guys in at danger. All right. But this could also shift farther east, putting Nova Scotia at a greater risk and a less risk for the northeastern U.S. So for you guys out here in like southern New England and the interior portions of the Northeast, you don't really have to worry much about the system, other than again maybe some spotty showers, maybe some thunderstorms that could roll through the area, and then obviously you will have that dominant west northwesterly flow that's gonna just create some relatively gusty winds in the area. But those really strong wind gusts will definitely be out here along the southern coast of Maine and Nova Scotia. So that's it for the current cone for Felipe. We're just gonna be looking at the latest GFS model for the tropics here. So looking at what the GFS is saying, it's really saying that Felipe is not going to do much up until this point, and it actually wants Felipe to strengthen as it climbs farther north. It wants Felipe to almost become a tropical depression as this moves into Bermuda, and then re-strengthen as it moves closer and closer to Maine and Nova Scotia. All right, so it meets up with this trough as it moves into Maine and Nova Scotia. That pulls it inland slightly. That's why we see that cone starting to curve into off to the west. All right, and that's pretty much that. After that, all right, the landfall will most likely be from early Saturday to late Sunday, so the 7th to the 8th. All right, and then it pretty much just spins around out there in the rest of that trough. All right, what could happen after Felipe? The GFS is showing another tropical wave that could come off Africa here, and we'll see what it does. The latest GFS does with it. It actually quickly turns this into a hurricane here, and we see where this thing goes, and it just goes out to sea. So nothing much in terms of potential impacts to land after Felipe. I haven't seen any concerning things yet, but we're still in October, so we're still technically in the hurricane season. We're definitely winding down here, but I really don't see much activity as of right now. So we'll keep an eye on the tropics. I wouldn't say keep all eyes on the tropics, obviously, because our weather back home is starting to heat up again as we get into fall and winter. Our secondary severe weather season is ramping up now, so we just got to make sure that we're watching anything that could cause some trouble or potentially some danger to our people out here in the United States. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video. So just gotta continue watching what's going on back home, seeing that big pattern change leading to the severe weather events, potentially outbreaks, that big blockbuster storm from the 13th to the 15th, 16th, whatever in that general time frame. Watch out for it. It's going to be big. We're going to continue tracking it. All right. But just stay with me through this week into next week, and I'm sure you will be very prepared for whatever is going to be happening weather-wise across the nation. So thank you all for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.